Watch Vegas for LeBron James.
What's your name?
Delonte West.
LeBron working on him. To the left. It's in the corner. Delonte West, the three. He got it! Delonte West with a big shot.
Delonte West, a former NBA player who earned $16 million over his career and is now facing criminal charges for allegedly robbing someone of $23. Police in Belle Haven, Virginia arrested the 42-year-old former Boston Celtics guard on a December night in 2025 after a victim reported being robbed and assaulted near Richmond Highway, and the amount allegedly stolen was $23. West posted a $1,000 bond and has a court date scheduled for this March. To understand how someone goes from playing alongside LeBron James in sold-out arenas to being arrested over $23, we need to start at the beginning. Who was Delonte West? Delonte Maurice West was born on July 26, 1983, in Washington, D.C., and his heritage includes African American, Native American from the Piscataway tribe, and white ancestry. Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Greenbelt, Maryland is where he became the Washington Post All-Met Basketball Player of the Year, averaging over 20 points, 6.5 rebounds, nearly 4 assists, and 3 steals per game. Those successful high school years had demons that most people never saw. A leg injury in 8th grade sidelined him from basketball, and his mother sent him to live with his father in Louisa County, Virginia during middle school, which triggered a downward spiral that included self-harm and prescription drug abuse. Time in and out of children's hospitals followed, along with multiple suicide attempts during his teen years. West's talent on the basketball court remained undeniable. St. Joseph's University came next, where he formed what many called the best backcourt in the country, alongside Jameer Nelson, and during the 2003 to 2004 season their team went 27-0 in the regular season before reaching the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament. The Boston Celtics selected West with the 24th overall pick in the 2004 NBA draft. The NBA year's 8 seasons from 2004 to 2012 defined West's professional career. For teams employed him during that time, the Boston Celtics, Seattle Supersonics, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Dallas Mavericks. And over 432 regular season games, he averaged 9.7 points per game, 3.6 assists, and shot 44.8% from the field and 37.2% from three-point range. Solid numbers for a role player, but West had his moments that went beyond solid. 31 points against the Minnesota Timberwolves in a double overtime game on March 4th, 2007 stands as his career high. The league named him to the Rookie Challenge at NBA All-Star Weekend in February 2006, and on April 27, 2008, he hit a clutch three-pointer with just 5.4 seconds left against the Washington Wizards in the playoffs, helping Cleveland win that series 3-1. Cleveland is where West played some of his most memorable basketball. September 2008 brought a 3-year, $12.7 million contract with the Cavaliers, and he started for a team that won a franchise record 66 games during the 2008 to 2009 season, including an incredible 39-2 record at home, while playing alongside LeBron James on one of the best teams in the NBA. But behind the scenes, something was happening that would change everything. The diagnosis. During his time with the Cavaliers in 2008, Delonte West received a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. An incident with an official following a Cavaliers preseason game preceded the diagnosis, but unlike many athletes who might hide such news, West was relatively open about it. His words to the Washington Post in a 2015 interview were direct. "I am bipolar, just like the rest of us in the world." That same 2015 interview revealed something more troubling. West disclosed that he was not taking medication to treat his bipolar disorder. The significance of that detail can't be overstated. Bipolar disorder means a mental illness characterized by extreme mood swings that include emotional highs called mania or hypomania and lows called depression. And without proper treatment and medication, these swings can be devastating. Judgment fails, behavior becomes erratic, the ability to think clearly disappears, and relationships, careers, and lives get destroyed. West continued playing through the 2011-12 season with the Dallas Mavericks, earning his last NBA salary of $1.22 million in 2012-13, bringing his total career earnings to approximately $16 million. By 2012, his NBA career was over at just 29 years old. The descent West tried to continue his basketball career overseas after leaving the NBA, but the details become murky, and what we know for certain is that by 2016 things had clearly gone wrong. A basketball fan encountered West outside a Houston restaurant, shoeless and alone, and when asked if he was Delonte, West's response haunts anyone who hears it. "I used to be, but I'm not about that life anymore." Reports that West was homeless surfaced by September 2019. A video that shocked the basketball world appeared on social media in January 2020. The footage showed West being attacked in the middle of a road in Prince George's County, Maryland, and another video from the same incident showed him handcuffed, shirtless, and speaking incoherently on the side of the road. The basketball community reacted with horror. Here was a man who had played 8 seasons in the NBA, earned $16 million, and played alongside the best players in the world, now being beaten in the street. And that's when things became very public. Mark Cuban's steps in a photo began circulating online on September 24th, 2020, showing Delonte West panhandling in Dallas, holding a cardboard sign in the rain near a Dallas highway. The image went viral, and Mark Cuban, the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks, saw it and took action instead of just expressing sympathy on social media. Within days, Cuban personally tracked down West, picked him up from a Dallas gas station on September 28th or 29th, and waited with him at a hotel until West's mother, Delphina Addison, could arrive. Cuban then paid for West's rehabilitation treatment at the Rebound Institute in Florida, a facility owned by former NBA player Jason Williams. Twitter received an update from Cuban on October 9th, 2020, with a photo of West riding a horse at the rehab facility. The caption read, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Delonte West. A long way to go, but he has taken the first steps and shared these with all of us as a thank you for the love and support." Less than a month later, on November 3rd, Cuban posted another update. "Because we all want something to feel great about today, here is your Delonte West update. It's still an uphill battle, but he is climbing." The story appeared to have a happy ending. A wealthy former owner had swooped in to save one of his former players. West was getting help, reunited with his mother, and reports in January 2021 even suggested West had landed a job at the rehab facility where he'd checked in. Anyone familiar with addiction and mental illness knows that recovery is rarely a straight line. The cycle June 2022 brought news that West had landed a flooring job and appeared to be getting back on his feet. 1 month later, in July 2022, new videos surfaced showing West begging again, this time in Virginia. Mark Cuban gave an interview to TMZ in New York City in October 2022, and his tone had changed dramatically from those hopeful tweets 2 years earlier. His assessment was blunt. It's a struggle for him. I mean, addiction is awful, and mental illness is awful. He's at the point in his life where he's got to want to be helped. You know, he's got to want to help himself first. I've tried. I know it's tough on him, but I wish him nothing but the best. Cuban revealed that West had run away from the rehab facility multiple times after initially showing progress. And by November 2023, Cuban made a painful announcement that he was pulling the plug on helping West after multiple attempts. His explanation was simple. He has a sickness. He's bipolar. He's got to want to be helped. Cuban's October 2024 statement reveals the pattern he'd witnessed. It's like he's making progress, sending pictures. Dante's emailing me, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, we getting this." And then Dante throws the stuff over the fence and disappears. We bring him back again, making progress. This is it, same stuff. Only so much you can do. Mental illness is real. It is real, and you just don't wish it away. While Cuban grappled with the limits of what money and good intentions could accomplish, West was accumulating a troubling record with law enforcement. The arrest began October 15th. 2022 brought West's first documented arrest in Fairfax County, Virginia, when he was seen trying to enter a car that didn't belong to him and was booked on 4 misdemeanor charges. The arrests accelerated in 2024. Police arrested West on June 6, 2024 in the 7200 block of Fairchild Drive in Groveton, Virginia, on charges of violating conditions of release and resisting arrest. Officers found him unresponsive after a brief police chase and had to administer Narcan, a medication used to reverse opioid overdoses. And when the first dose didn't have the desired effect, they gave him a second one. A hospital visit and release followed, then transport to a detention center. 5 months later, on November 1st or 2nd, 2024, West was arrested again for trespassing near the Huntington Metro Station in Virginia after being accused of refusing to leave an area where he was banned. Video surveillance from the property owner corroborated the claim, and police found him walking near Huntington Metro on November 2nd around 8:48 p.m. before arresting him and holding him on a $1,000 bond. Release came the next day with a misdemeanor charge and a court hearing scheduled for January 2025. Another arrest came on November 2nd or 3rd, 2025, when police received a call around 8:30 p.m. for a male unconscious and not breathing at Fair Haven Avenue and Richmond Highway in Fairfax County. Officers and EMS arrived to find West breathing but appearing heavily intoxicated, administered Narcan as a precaution, and when they offered to take him to the hospital, West refused. Police arrested him for his own safety with charges of public intoxication and obstruction or resisting arrest without force, released him on bond, and set a court date for April 2026. That brings us to December 2025. $23 law enforcement in Fairfax County received a call from someone reporting they'd been robbed and assaulted in the 5900 block of Richmond Highway in Belle Haven, and the caller said the person who robbed them had run off. Police arrived, and the victim pointed across the street to a man they claimed was responsible. Delonte West stood there, and according to law enforcement officials in the area have unfortunately become familiar with West over the years. West was taken into custody without further incident and posted a $1,000 bond. The total amount allegedly taken from the victim was around $23. Delonte West earned approximately $16 million during his NBA career. His salary in the 2010-11 season alone was around $1.7 million. And in 2008, he signed a 3-year contract worth $12.7 million with the Cavaliers. Now at 42 years old, he's facing criminal charges for allegedly robbing someone of $23. March 2026 is when West is scheduled to appear in court for this latest charge, and he still has the November 2025 charges pending with a court date in April. A report from approximately 1 week before January 15th, 2026 indicated that West was 30 days sober, which if true means he was maintaining sobriety even as this December arrest occurred, and raises questions about whether this incident was related to substance abuse or the untreated symptoms of his bipolar disorder. The bigger picture West's brother Dimitri once said, "Delonte West is not crazy. He is not on drugs. I don't know what exactly is going on in his mind, but I can tell you that he is safe and he's doing okay." That statement came in 2020, and clearly things are not okay now. A wife named Caressa Madden and 2 sons are part of West's family, and his mother Delphina Addison was last confirmed to have been reunited with him during Mark Cuban's 2020 intervention, though the current status of those relationships remains unknown. What we know for certain is that West told the Washington Post in 2015 that he wasn't taking medication for his bipolar disorder. Cuban tried multiple times to help and eventually had to step back. And in the span of just over 2 years from October 2022 to December 2025, West has been arrested at least 5 times. This isn't a story about bad decisions or moral failings. What we're looking at is untreated mental illness and the devastating cycle of addiction playing out in real time. Bipolar disorder, when properly managed with medication and therapy, is a treatable condition, and many people with bipolar disorder live full, productive, stable lives, but without treatment, it can be absolutely devastating. Manic episodes lead to impulsive, risky behavior. Depressive episodes can be life-threatening, and when you add substance abuse to the mix, and we know West has struggled with opioids based on the multiple Narcan administrations, you have a perfect storm of factors that can destroy a person's life. Mark Cuban's statement about mental illness being real and not something you can just wish away is accurate, but there's a complexity here that the "he's got to want to be helped" narrative doesn't fully capture. The "want to be helped" debate. When someone relapses repeatedly, runs away from rehab facilities, and refuses hospital transport, the easy conclusion is they don't want help, and there's truth to that, because recovery does require a person's active participation, and you can't force someone to get better. Mental health advocates would argue that this oversimplifies what's happening with conditions like bipolar disorder and addiction. When someone's brain chemistry is severely imbalanced, when they're in the grip of addiction, their ability to make rational decisions about their own well-being is compromised, and saying someone with untreated bipolar disorder needs to want to be helped is a bit like saying someone having a seizure needs to want to stop seizing. The chronic relapse that Cuban described, the pattern of progress followed by running away, followed by more progress, followed by disappearing again, is actually a common feature of these conditions, not a character flaw, but part of the illness itself. Uncomfortable questions about our society's approach to mental illness and addiction surface here. West clearly needs help, but if he refuses treatment, runs away from rehab, and doesn't take his medication, what can be done? Mark Cuban, despite his wealth and genuine desire to help, ultimately couldn't save West. And if a billionaire who's willing to personally intervene can't solve this problem, what does that say about the prospects for people who don't have a Mark Cuban in their corner? The public spectacle, another uncomfortable aspect of this story, is the way it's been played out in public, because every time Delonte West is arrested it becomes news, and every time someone films him in a vulnerable state, those videos go viral. Someone filmed when he was being attacked in the street in 2020, someone photographed when he was panhandling. Some argue that this public attention has actually helped West, since it was a viral photo that prompted Mark Cuban's intervention, while others argue that we're essentially watching a man's mental breakdown as entertainment and exploiting his vulnerability for clicks and views. No easy answer exists here. This video you're watching right now is part of that same dynamic, telling West's story because people are interested in it, because it's compelling, because it involves an NBA player and a billionaire owner, and the stark contrast between $16 million in career earnings and a $23 robbery charge. The hope is that there's value in telling the story with context, in explaining the role of mental illness and addiction, in being honest about the complexity of the situation rather than just treating it as tabloid fodder. Where things stand. Here's what we know as of mid-January 2026. Delonte West is 42 years old, facing charges for an alleged $23 robbery with a court date in March 2026, and still has charges pending from November 2025 with a court date in April 2026. At least 5 arrests since October 2022 are documented, and according to at least one report from early January 2026, he was 30 days sober. Law enforcement officials in Fairfax County have stated they've become familiar with West over the years, and he appears to be living in the Virginia area, though his exact living situation is unclear. 14 years have passed since West played his last NBA game, 16 years since he played on that Cleveland Cavaliers team that won 66 games, and 18 years since he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. According to that 2015 interview, at least 11 years have passed since he confirmed he wasn't taking medication for that diagnosis. The unanswered questions. So many questions remain without answers. Is West currently taking medication for his bipolar disorder? What's his relationship with his wife and children? When was the last time he spoke with his mother? Has anyone else in his life tried to help him the way Mark Cuban did? Does he have a support system beyond law enforcement and the court system? The full details of that December robbery remain unclear as well. What were the circumstances? Was West experiencing a manic episode? Was he under the influence of something? Was this an act of desperation for food or shelter? The amount, $23, suggests desperation rather than greed, but we simply don't have enough information to know what really happened. And the most pressing question, what happens next? Will these court dates in March and April lead to jail time? Will they lead to court-mandated treatment? Or will West post bond, fulfill whatever requirements the court sets, and then end up in the same cycle he's been in for years? What this story really tells us, the Delonte West story, is about much more than one former NBA player. What we're seeing is the limitations of individual charity versus systemic solutions. Because Mark Cuban tried genuinely to help, spent his own money, his own time, his own energy, and it didn't work. Not because Cuban didn't care enough or didn't try hard enough, but because the problems West faces are bigger than what any one person, no matter how wealthy, can solve. This is about the way we as a society handle mental illness. West was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2008, which means 18 years of living with a serious mental illness. 18 years during which the disease was allowed to run its course largely untreated, destroying his career, his finances, his relationships, and possibly his freedom. The unique challenges faced by athletes after retirement come into sharp focus here. West went from being an NBA player, traveling the country, staying in nice hotels, playing in front of thousands of fans, earning millions of dollars, to being a regular person in his late 20s with no structure, no career, and untreated mental illness. That transition, even under the best circumstances, is difficult, and under West's circumstances, it was catastrophic. And this is about homelessness and addiction in America. The cycle of arrests, brief interventions, releases, and more arrests is familiar to anyone who works with homeless populations or addiction, and the system we have, which largely relies on law enforcement and emergency rooms as the first point of contact, is not equipped to provide the sustained, comprehensive treatment that conditions like West require. The tragedy here's what makes this story truly tragic. Delonte West is still alive at only 42 years old. With proper treatment, with the right medication for his bipolar disorder, with sustained addiction treatment, with stable housing, with a support system, his life could still turn around, because people recover from mental illness and addiction every day, and people rebuild their lives, which means it's possible. Recovery requires resources, stability, and sustained support though, along with a healthcare system that can provide continuity of care, a social safety net that doesn't let people fall through the cracks. And as Cuban pointed out, the person themselves must engage with treatment. The fact that West was reportedly 30 days sober in early January 2026 suggests that some part of him does want to recover. 30 days is significant because it means he made it through the acute withdrawal period and was, at least for a time, making different choices. But then came the December arrest, and now he's back in the legal system facing charges and dealing with court dates, and the cycle continues. Final thoughts: this is the story of Delonte West, who earned $16 million playing basketball at the highest level and is now facing criminal charges for allegedly robbing someone of $23. A talented kid from Washington, D.C. who battled mental health issues from a young age, but still made it to the NBA, starts this story. 8 successful seasons playing professional basketball follow, with clutch shots and career highs, and playing alongside LeBron James filling those years. But what happens when mental illness goes untreated, when addiction takes hold, when the support systems fail, and when the cycle of crisis and temporary intervention replaces sustained care? That's what this story is really about. Court dates coming up in March and April 2026 will determine the next chapter of Delonte West's story. What happens at those hearings could decide whether the legal system becomes another revolving door as it has been for the past several years, or whether it could somehow connect West with the sustained treatment he desperately needs. We don't know the answer, and honestly, based on the pattern of the past few years, it's hard to be optimistic. West is still here though, still alive. And as long as that's true, there's still a chance, however slim, that this story could have a different ending than the one it currently seems headed toward. The question becomes whether we as a society have the systems and the will to make that different ending possible, not just for Delonte West, but for the thousands of people trapped in similar cycles of mental illness, addiction, homelessness, and incarceration. That's really what this story is about. Not just one former NBA player and $23, but all of us and what we're willing to do or not do for the most vulnerable people in our society. Delonte West once said, "I used to be, but I'm not about that life anymore." And the tragedy is that he was talking about being himself, about being Delonte West. And until he gets the help he needs, that statement might remain true. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.